Welcome to you all. We are into the 20th talk on Lokadharmi Theatre Talk Series, and today we have Ramanjit Kaur talking to us, interacting with us. She'll be focusing mainly on the imagery of theatre, imagery in theatre. So before she starts her talk, let me very briefly introduce her. I think most of the people who are interested in Indian theatre and watching Indian theatre has seen Ramanjit performing, even if we are not directly interacted with her, talked with her, because from the very late 90s, she has been performing the most
1986, 85.
1985, she has been acting all the important roles with Neelam Singh Productions. So she's the most important actor in the company. So when we talked, I was in at least 5 of her productions, where she was performing quite wonderfully. So she's a very experienced actor doing theatre with one of the most important theatre pioneers of India, who has done a lot of path-breaking productions, acting, helping her devising it, designing it, molding it, so part of the journey. So that's one part of Ramanjit. From Fedra to that wonderful Nagamandala to the Sioux to the kitchen story to, I forget the name of that auto rickshaw driver, where she is a female auto rickshaw driver asking for the license and getting into the bureaucracy, all those things. Forgot the name of the play. It's a Punjabi play name. So all these productions she has been. Beyond that, she has been trained formally also. She had her theatre training from France, from UK. She has won the Charles Wallace Fellowship and gone, and the French scholarship. She has gone so an international training in theatre, rather than beyond the real experience in theatre, working with stalwart like Neelam Singh. And she's now staying, or for the last many years, she's staying in Kolkata, and she has her own theatre group. She's the founder director of the Creative Arts Kolkata, who are doing a lot of different kinds of works, starting from producing, organizing, experimenting, doing different kind of productions, doing workshops for adults, theatre therapy, children, all these things. This group is very active. They are even very active even in the COVID days. So continuously working as the founder director, directing plays, designing plays, all these things she is doing. And she has a background in music. She's actually a postgraduate in music and dance, and also fine arts, literature. So she has a good knowledge about music, literature, fine arts, dance, all those things, which makes a wonderful theatre person to use all these things. And in her productions, she has been trying a lot of different styles and genres. For example, she has been doing proscenium productions in full-fledged, real good productions in proscenium. But she has taken theatre beyond that. She has been trying to do intimate kind of theatre. She has been trying to do theatre in open spaces, beyond proscenium, directly interacting, inviting the active participation of the audience. All these kinds of experiments she is also doing. And she's trying to expand the language of theatre also. That's very important, because she has been using all the traditional kinds of vocabulary in theatre which we are seeing. Plus she's into the new kind of emerging language with video streaming, video art, installation, photography, creative sound design, and handling of the text in her own way. Things she is trying to put into. I think that's why this imagery in theatre becomes very important. It's a very important thing for all theatre practitioners, directors, designers, and actors also, because actors work with images, actors work with objects. So they have to be an image to create a story, to create a thing. So all these things Ramanjit will be saying to you. She has traveled wide the world, performing with Neelam, performing alone, doing workshops, studying, teaching, all these things she has been to different parts of the world. And also, she has the other face. She's a very important film actor also. She has been there in that wonderful role in Fire, and in almost all Viva Mehta's productions, she's there. I think with this Heaven of on Earth, Mouth of Hell, all this. So she has that experience of also how to act in front of a camera and how to be part of meaningful films, not all kinds of films. So she has been doing that also. So she has been awarded with the Charles Wallace Award, I told you, the French Embassy Scholarship, and the Sanskriti Award is one of the prestigious awards of the country, and also the Central Sangeet Academy's Bismillah Khan Eva Puraskar Award. So we have a very versatile person, very active in theatre for the last 30, 35 years, traveling around the world, performing. She has been to Kerala at least twice to perform. So she has been everywhere. And welcome, Ramanjit, to this session. We are looking forward. And
Thank you so much.
Just handing over the mic, I just announced that next Sunday, 11 o'clock, we have Abhilash Pillai talking. Abhilash Pillai, who is the Dean and the Professor of National School of Drama, is from Kerala. He's a wonderful theatre director, and he'll be speaking to us on next Monday. He'll be speaking about post-traumatic performance. Post-traumatic performance is the topic which Abhilash is going to speak. And welcome all participants. We look forward for a very interactive session. And Ramanjit has already told me that no, she would not, she would love actually to have questions in between. We need not wait for the last, but see that. That's from my part, not for her part. See that the questions addresses to the flow of her talk and the subject of the talk, at least in the first part. Maybe we have something extra to ask beyond the topic of discussion, we can keep it for the last segment of the interaction. So the other questions, which if you need a clarification or explanation, you are always welcome to put it, just unmute and say hi and then talk without breaking the flow of Ramanjit. So welcome everybody, Ramanjit.
Thank you so much, Chandra-Dasanji, and everyone at Lokadharmi group for inviting me for this session. And as I've already written and expressed that it was a surprise when I received this call, and it's a great pleasure to come here and share my journey and especially imagery in theater. It's a topic which is very dear to my heart because that's what I work in uh, all the time. Uh, I would like to express that theater is ephemeral. It is born every evening and it dies that very same evening. What is left is just the memory in our heart, in our minds, and in our hearts, a feeling in our heart and a memory in our mind. So, what is this memory? Is it more of the sound, the words that we heard, the dialogues that we heard, or is it the visual that impacts our minds more? Do we remember the visual more, the scenery, the scene, or a certain image that we have seen on the stage? Does that stay in our mind? That happens to me at least, and I think visual memory has a longer effect on the mind and the heart. And also what imagery does is it helps us delve deeper and deeper into the layers of any emotion, any feeling, or any character. Words are just uh, words, but they transcend the barrier of a language or barrier of being just that much once we add visuals to it or once we create a sound. Even sound kind of becomes and imagery if used in a certain manner. So, I mean, this whole journey that I would like to share with all of you, spans a lot of different contexts and a lot of different times. Um, and my work started with Neelam Mansingh Chaudhary around 1985, and I was very fortunate to explore this language of imagery with her, because I started dancing at age 6. So for me, for first and foremost, my body becomes an expression and becomes a tool to express any feeling. I start, working in a physical theater form kind of thing, because how you move your body or how you weave in the words or the sounds within your body also help you manifest different emotions and feelings. And along with that, when the objects started coming in, or how she would develop the visual language, became beautiful exploration, because there was no end to how much we can keep on digging deeper into the character or the emotion. And then looking at it in different contexts of different genre of theater, as Chandra Dasanji said, that whether it's proscenium or space or site specific or theater science or studio space, so in each space the imagery also gets a different context and gets a different texture, because in site specific, it the space also lends itself to the imagery, to creating a whole metaphor, to creating a whole story. And that's what we're going to touch upon this morning. And I hope, I mean, Chandradasanji has been very kind to give such a generous introduction, and it almost makes me nervous that I hope I am able to justify, a little bit of it at least, having worked for so long with my own guru. Um, so I will start my journey, in fact, with Neelam Mansingh Ji's work, where I started in 1985. And the first play was Hate Vagde Darya, which was the story of sister of Helen of Troy, Clytemnestra and Agamemnon. And I got to play the daughter of Agamemnon and mistress of Agamemnon in the later half of the play. I was a teenager at that point of time, and it was quite an overwhelming experience for me to be, working opposite seasoned actors. But what was beautiful about the play, that we were working in the open air space of the rock gardens, and there was a water body over there, and which divided the audience and the actors. And then she had put a swing, so I had a scene where I would sit on the swing and it would go on top of the water. So it was, um, and then there were hills on the side, or the small hills that Nick Chanji has created in the rock gardens. The reason I'm sharing this is that the atmosphere itself became an image for me, or lended itself in creating or evoking that whole um, vastness or the largeness of that kind of script. Moving to the next one, which was my break as the protagonist or in the lead role with Neelamji, and I've been very fortunate to play the protagonists in most of the plays after that, was Nagamandala by Girish Karnadji. And as you all know, that Nagamandala has 1 million layers. And we've been very fortunate that we've been playing it since 1989, I think. Um, and we are playing it till date. I mean, today, if you all invite us to Trichur, we would be happy to do Nagamandala. And Nagamandala has had a whole of Karnataka tour in Hegud, Dharwad, and Udupi, many places. So Nagamandala, done done at that point of time, was interesting in a way, because it had B.V. Karanji's music, who created music for us for 16 years. And also the plays were translated by the leading Punjabi poet Surjit Patarji. And I would say that Surjit Patarji's language itself, especially Nagmandla, already had that poetic language, and a lot of scripts that Neelamji would choose would have a lot of layers and poetry in it. And then to top that, they were translated by Surjit Patarji, which itself created a lot of texture and a lot of poetry and a lot of lyricism to it. So question was that there's the husband and the Naga. So how do you create a Naga? There were many productions that were done all over India at that point of time, and someone had, wooden Naga or different kind of stuff they did, or a paper meche Naga. But what Neelamji did, because we were looking at questioning what is our real world and what is the illusionary world. Is real world more real or illusionary world more real? And hence the husband is the Naga and Naga is the husband, because it's the same man who is um, someone during the day and he behaves completely differently at night. So the question is, are they even different? So what would happen that this actor would take a beautiful, skin colored and skin textured cloth around his neck and just become Naga. So it was as simple a device as that, that right in the beginning created, uh, the image or the metaphor of Naga in Nagamandala. And as I said, that we've been fortunate to continue doing Nagamandala. Naga would come and spread gold dust on me, and I would be full of gold dust for days and months together because it wouldn't come out of my hair. So that was another, it just created a feeling, a surreal feeling, when he would come. So the objects added to the feeling of it. And then later on, in the next version, I remember the actor had changed. Now it was Vansh Bhardwaj, who is also a physically trained actor, and he trained under Neelamji in Indian Theatre Department University, Punjab University. So we could use our bodies as metaphors and images together as two actors, and also the physical object images that we were using in the play had developed by that point of time. I wouldn't say change because they were just developing. So, you know, when Naga comes, I'm working in the kitchen. Rani is working in the kitchen, and he just comes and lifts her up, and the chani in my hand and the atta in the chani, so it just gets spread all over the stage, creating a smoke. So again, the feeling of illusion is created by a very ordinary object and is created organically out of the action that was being done at that point of time by that character. Then I remember there was one scene where Naga comes. I think this was the third version. When Naga comes, Rani was in a trunk. So this is in the third version, that I would hide in the trunk full of cotton. So again, when he would, and I would jump into the trunk the moment he arrived. And the moment he opened it, I would be all full of cotton. So I would appear like a ghost, as if you've seen something that you become white like a ghost. So these were the kind of devices. And then again, the cloths that were used, various cloths that were used over here. Also, I would like to mention that in the third version, Neelamji used two Ranis. There was the Kahani, who would, the story, who would become Rani, and there was the actor who was playing the character of Rani. So then what would happen, that at some point of time, one is doing the physical part of it and the other is underlayering the emotion. And at another point of time, this one becomes the physical and the other one takes the emotion. Let me see if I can share the imagery of Nagamandala at this point of time before I go to the next one, so that at least this context is seen. Chandradasanji, also I would like to ask, because what, I mean, English language is fine, or do you want me to speak in Hindi also? You're muted, Chandra.
English, please.
English.
Yeah, I thought as much.
We
The other
only
day I did
told
the mistake of, speaking in English half of the time, and then I was told I'm not using Hindi. So I felt bad about that. Okay, so this is the scene in both if you see the image on the left, I think that's where, oh, this one was created differently. This is in the second, uh, third version, but the second scene where Naga comes again to revisit her, and she's put mustache on her face. It's almost like when you try to dress up like your lover and you wear the clothes that he wears. So she is like that, and then he's slowly wiping off the mustache of her face with a cotton, and the scene on the right is the interaction in the second scene when they meet again. Can we go to the next?
Maybe Ramanjit, you can slightly explain that importance of that mustache, because if somebody is not there who has not seen the play or read the play, can get a better
Right.
idea about
So,
how.
thank you for that question. So, Chandradasanji, basically, uh, we were just trying to explore their meeting in many different ways every time we do it. So I'm sure if we start rehearsing today, we would like to, Vansh and I, and with Neelam ma'am's guidance, we would like to create something completely different. So this was a version where in their second meeting, while remembering him, she dresses up like him. She's wearing the clothes that he wears. She puts on a mustache the way he may have or he has. So again, you create a metaphor where the intensity of passion or intensity of love is underlined. It's like how much she misses him that she almost wants to become him. That was the feeling that was there for me, dressing up like him and almost trying to appear like him. So when he comes and he turns her around, he sees the mustache and he has a good laugh, and he's trying to wipe off the mustache at that point of time. And then, of course, there's a lot of physical interaction. So our physical movements of Vansh and me also create a lot of metaphors of passion, intensity. Also, in the later plays, I would like to show you when you are upset with each other, the intensity of fury or anger is also created by a lot of physicality. So there was another one where I am tying a sari, and how he pulls it, and then I don't think so I have that picture here, and then we both get tied in the same sari. So through simple gestures, you becoming one. You don't, that's the beauty of theater, that you don't have to show everything. And I think even good cinema which transcends the very obvious, or which tries to explore those subtle nuances, um, which say a lot without actually doing it or saying it, is what is quite interesting. So I mean, another one, I have this umbrella in my hand and it's all covered in this sheer cloth, and we both the moment he comes, we both hide under that umbrella, and then there's a lot of physical movement. So some actions and gestures like that. Next one is just an image. She's listening to blind woman telling her about the love potion that she should give to the Naga. And next, this was interesting because Girish Kanadji, as most of us are familiar with the script of Nagamandala, there's this element of light, the character of lights. What happens to the light when it is switched off? Uh, at night. So in this play, all the lights from all the houses, they get together at a certain place and they gossip about what's happening in each home. Right from the beginning, this group compositions were created very interestingly by Neelamji, and we always had lanterns in our hands. And in this one, it was we had these sheer cloths on our faces, where you know, for me, it was like being secretive, hiding and that kind of stuff. It kind of created layers when we had this sheer cloth on our faces. And also, I would like to mention over here, a lot of times, what a director is going through or what an actor is going through, most of the time, at least between Neelamji and me, it's quite the same. And yet, we are two individuals and we could be experiencing different feelings and emotions or different analysis of each action that we are doing. That is bound to happen because we are two different individuals who are experiencing these emotions or who are creating something or you know feeling once the creation is done. What is the next one? Okay, I think without coming back to gallery, we can straight away go to Kitchen Katha, Chandadasanji, if I may. uh, Kitchen Katha was another play that had loads of imagery. First of all, I really salute Neelam ma'am for creating this play, and she hates it when I talk like that, and I love it. So, and I love that she hates it, and I love it. So, this play she created um, 10 live burners, and I think it really needs a salute because we had 10 things happening on the stage, and these were the musicians who were cooking these things. So um, the musicians cooking, singing, playing the instruments, the actors enacting, cooking, and creating imagery. So that was the kind of discipline that Kitchen Katha created. So sometimes creating images or working with objects or working with things um, is a matter of a lot of discipline. It's almost like a trapeze like artist precision that you need, and especially in a play like Kitchen Katha. In this scene, she has a anar in her hand, where a very beautiful song of कित्थे मैं मुक्का ते कित्थे शुरू तू कुछ भी ना लगे हिसाब, that where I began and where you end, there's it's just unimaginable, or it cannot be described. um, so through the holding of the anar or the peeling of it or just working with it created the lovemaking scene. And yeah, I mean, it was one of my favorite plays, and I used to love um, working with these props. Then there's another scene which unfortunately I could not find the image, and it keeps popping up otherwise all the time, and just this time I couldn't find it. There's a scene where almost 5 kg atta flour is poured on me. That is when I'm playing Tara, and she's telling the story of her grandmother Chand. Um, the character has got the news that her lover is getting married to her cousin sister. And the lover is saying that that was the only way I could come close to you. And this protagonist is churning inside, and she knows she cannot do anything about it. At that point of time, 5 kg atta is poured on my head, and it's pouring and pouring, and I have to render the poem while the flour is pouring on me. And I almost become like all white. I become like a ghost while saying this. Again, it's almost like you become white while when you're in a shock. uh, And yet, while creating this image, what is the precision that is required? You have to be very careful where you take the breath so that the flour doesn't go into your nose, it doesn't go into your mouth, because if that happens and it's pouring, it's continuously pouring on you. But how do you create the breath from the mouth and the nose that it doesn't go inside and you are talking also? And you're creating the emotion. Then again, as Neelamji says, that every creative decision in a play is also a practical one. So once the 5 kg atta is on me, I'm full of this flour. What do I do? So I get up and I do this kind of, very rigorous motion, because she's anyway in rage and she's churning with pain. So these rigorous actions blow off the atta from me. And then I run to this cart which is full of vegetables. And there's a papaya over there. And then she says that the marriage was announced. Marriage of her lover and her cousin sister was announced. So to further underline the pain or emote the pain, I pick up the papaya and I smudge it all over my face. Now, one, that it is the underlining of that emotion. Two, it also cleans the atta from my face. Smudging of the papaya, it just cleanses off the atta from my face. And after that, it becomes easy for me to quickly go and wash it again as part of my emotion and action. Because if after the flour, I had straight away gone to the water, it would have gotten stuck to my face. It would have become sticky. So I had to take it off, and then I peel off my upper kurta, and there's a nice, uh, shining kurta that I'm wearing underneath, because after that, I think it's the meeting scene or a scene where she's really expressing her love through food, because that's what Kitchen Katha is all about. It's about expressing your love through food. And, the food is shared with the audience. So another precision was required, that the taste had to be perfect, and Nilamji would taste all the pakoras, the batter of the pakoras, the aloo, the roti was made. So everything, chutney was
Jalebi.
made. And yes, yes, chutney was made. So, and it was served to the audience during the show, after the show, in places like Japan and all, we had to cook for 200 people, and it was served at the bar even before the show. Sometimes we would cook in the morning. Um, so, after that, there's a beautiful scene which says, Pacham de vich dubya suraj, uh, बिरखा देना लगिया छावा पानी अंदर रात कुली है मैं तेरे तक किस बिद आवा. That night is almost submerging in water, but how do I come to you? So over there I have a cauldron of water, and there's gold dust in the water, so I dip my hands in that, and then, because my all my costume is also almost gold, and then I start sticking it all over my body, almost showing the imaginary love making. And I become all gold. So again, these visuals, we only hope that they help in heightening the emotion in an audience, in a spectator. And I think we can go to the next. Those were the images that I remember in Kitchen Katha right away. Yeah, this is the one where she's smudging the papaya on her face and trying to take the atta off her face and of her body. This is another strong story. It's called The Suit, and it's a South African short story by Can Themba, where husband and wife are really in love, but the wife ends up having a brief affair with another person, and the husband catches her. And when he catches them uh, while in the act, The lover runs away, but when he's running away, he forgets his suit uh, in their house. And then that suit becomes a power tool for the husband. It becomes the third presence in their lives. But that's how the story itself is written. And they eat, he asks her to feed the suit. You know, they go out, they take the suit with them. Later on, they throw a party, the suit is brought up. So, I mean, this is a scene where she meets the lover. It's just a fun scene. Next. Uh, okay, now if you see the image on the right, that's where they're carrying the suit with them. So even though initially she feels very awkward, but then she says, okay, if it's just this much and he hasn't thrown me out of the house and it hasn't really gone crazy, then it's fine. You know, I just have to carry the suit and pretend that I'm feeding him. But slowly she realizes that how he is emotionally killing her through this power game. Before this, when she comes to know, the husband has come to know of, uh, he catches them. The churning that she goes through, I did it with a huge white sheet. So how the white sheet was rolled around her arm or around her body, and then I take off that whole sheet because that's where they had made love, and I dip it in water, then I, squash and squash and squash it with my feet. So it's almost like you're trying to erase the memory of something silly that you did in your life, and if it can be erased or if it can be removed by those actions. And then comes in this suit thing of the feeding and carrying him. On the left is the image where they decide to have a party. And she feels, oh, this is lovely, things are improving. And uh, he's not being so rude to me anymore. So we're going to have fun finally. But when guests arrive, he asks her to get the suit and asks her to feed the suit. And that becomes like a very insulting moment for her because now he's insulting her in front of the people. And the people also feel awkward, though they say, oh, just this is just a small game that we play. Now, over here, what Vansh and I did is we have our eyes blindfolded. It's almost like a dirty dancing that we are doing, though the emotion is completely in contrast to what we are trying to show. So it's very intimate, this whole dance. It's very intense. It's blindfolded because it's almost like making it more like dirty dancing, but it's also like the power play which kind of blinds you to the goodness of life. So yeah, that's what the scene is. Next. Towards the end, in the original story, the woman passes away after this party, but that was not agreeable to Neelamji, and she decided to change the ending. There's a scene within the play where the husband asks her to wear the suit, to make love to the suit. And that's the scene we brought towards the end. And this is where she slowly starts wearing the suit sensuously, as if she's making love to the suit. But towards the end, I think we haven't gotten that picture. I thought they were getting too many, so I reduced them. But now I'm feeling maybe I should have added some more. So towards the end, once she's worn it, she stands up on the table and she zips up the pant, and she's wearing the whole suit, and the husband is saying, give the suit back to me. It's almost like he understands that now the power is transferring to her. No, we go back to the previous. So he says, give it back to me. And she says, never. It is my skin now. So the power has kind of shifted to her in the last scene. So that's how the suit, the imagery in suit happens. Then we go to A Wife's Letter, which is by Tagore. And if we go to the, as you can see, there's a lot of village scene that is created. The you know, buffalo is depicted by a Rexon on the table and just drawing its face on that cloth or Rexon that we had. And if we go to the next image, I would be able to share with everyone that again she uses um, multiple actors playing the same character. So we have two Mrinals, two protagonists in this play. One, which is Vansh in the front, is doing the physical bit, is telling the story along with Bindu, which was played by Gik Garewal, and the other one creates the emotional journey of the character at the back. So both the Mrinals are there. So the moment he's saying that, she has a miscarriage, or she gives birth. No, she didn't give birth to a dead child, but the child dies very soon, and or Bindu passed away, or whatever happens in the play. At the back, it is depicted through images. Of course, some of the images were used by Rocky, also by Vanch. So when we talk about the child, she starts playing with an egg. She starts playing with an egg. And also, when he mentions that the child dies, and then, which is again reiterated by the other actor, while playing, the egg breaks and it is spilled all over her. Again, the usage of an image which creates a lot of mess. So once you're full of egg, how do you clean it? Because cleaning an egg is very difficult. But fortunately, I had wraith over there. So I, you know, wipe my hands with lot of wraith. I wipe my clothes with lot of wraith, and the egg goes off. Um, you are able to get rid of the egg. Um, I mean, there are a lot of images that happen here, but if I go to the next one, this is where uh, her marriage is announced. And she's a young girl and she's quite perplexed that she's getting married at such a young age. And so this was done while she's dressing up and she's putting lipstick on her lips, but she's also pouring water on her head. So it kind of creates many layers of what a young girl is going through when she's getting married. She is dressing up, there is that excitement, but it's also like lotas of pots of water that is pouring over her head, because how do you clear the mind space, or how do you even relax, how do you even breathe? It's almost like getting uh, drenched in endless emotions. Next. This is almost the last scene where Bindu is no more, and she's writing letters, uh, you know, I think to her brother or Bindu in this one. And because it is written with red ink, when the news comes that Bindu is no more, she just picks up that letter and smudges it on her face. So the face becomes red at that point of time. So the whole imagery of water, of the red color, and yet done organically as part of the continuity of the action that the actor was doing, is what happens here. I would like to, which one is the next? And then I would like to explain something here that I don't. Oh, the license. Yes, maybe I will go through these images. Is that okay, Chandradasanji? This is the last of my work with Neelamji. And then I have just thought of some thoughts. I will share them once these images, this series is over. Is that
Okay,
okay?
it's fine.
Yeah. So this is the play called The License, which is by Saadat Hassan Monto. Um, and it's almost like a monologue, and but there's a lot of background created by our live musicians who are also female impersonators, and we're very, very fortunate to work with them, because I feel as an actor, even though I trained in so many classical forms and folk forms of dance, but there's a lot of physical language that I learned from the female impersonators that we work with. And then again, that becomes a language of your body, and that helps you create a lot of imagery with your body, which happens in Nagamandla, happens a lot in the license. Um, so, uh, the license, of course, there's a lot of background characters that are created by Kit Garewal. The lead singer is Pamela Singhji. In this one, that was a moment where I am preparing for the final performance, which was a closed door performance that we do before we go onto the stage. You can see the audience there, and I have branches in my hand. So the branches are because how do I show the lovemaking scene in this one, in this play? So I had tied a milk packet inside this orange cloth, and I start dancing with the branches to show the lovemaking. And at a certain, but it has to be done with a lot of precision, because the milk cannot spill out beforehand. The hole cannot be very small that it doesn't pour out. It cannot be very big that it pours out beforehand, even if you tie it. So after getting that precision, so I'm dancing with these branches, and at a certain point of time, I kind of squeeze it. So there's a whole splatter of milk that happens, and so you squeeze, and so you having a milk bath, to kind of uh, accentuate the love making or the joy that these two lovers are going through. Next. Yeah, so as this is a monologue, I start this, I think the image is there in the next one. I start this scene, could you go to the, yeah, from inside the trunk, because she's hiding, she's very upset. So we start from the middle of the middle line of the play, and we say that, that day, if Suraj was alive, this would have happened, because she's running away from the officers who have troubled her or insulted her. So she's hiding in the trunk, and then she comes out of the trunk, and then I start rocking the trunk, in a rhythm to create the rhythm of the tonga. So that also becomes that how your body, the object that you're using, helps you create a visual imagination in the mind of the audience. Next. This is, you can see the use of the body, because again, this is about when they fall in love, and how also even the breath that you take helps you create the imagery. Because over here, I take a lot of breaths like, and I remember that when she sees her first, she sees him, and then she falls on the floor. Then again, she gets up. So I see him again, I fall. So how do you use your body to express the emotion in a heightened manner? And thankfully, theater, gives us that space to do all kind of experimentation. No one is telling you that this cannot be done. Next. Right. So this is where her husband they marry each other, and he dies. I don't have that image, unfortunately. He's caught by the police. When he's caught by the police, I have this tall basket which I take as the jail. And as if when I'm talking to him in the jail, I use different voices as if I'm going to meet him. And then I'm also using a rhythm. It's like a rhythm of going to the jail and talking to him. And then he's feeling more and more sick. And then one day he passes away. And then it's like she screams, Suraj, Suraj, you know, and that's like as if you could be screaming in a cave or standing in the valley where it's echoing all over the place. And then she carries, I lie down and I carry the basket on my stomach and I crawl on the stage. So almost like how she's carrying the body of the lover that is no more, and she moves towards the final cremation. And then she puts the basket very nicely. And, you know, I'm just writing what uh, she puts the basket very nicely on one side and puts leaves around it. After that, there's a friend who is driving the Tonga, but he tries to molest her. And then one day he rapes her. Now, that scene is, again, I do not have that image. That scene was done by one cloth. That one cloth with which she is wiping the Tonga, she holds it in front and says that she was raped. And she moves towards the audience saying that, oh, this is what you want? This is what you want to do? This is how kind of gentleman you are or respectful person you are with your own dignity. And then she kind of, you know, rotates it like this, making it like a one long um, cloth piece. And I create a movement and I hit it in between my legs to create the ferocity or the violence of rape. And I hit it once in between my legs, I hit it twice, and then I bring it out in a certain manner that it's finished now. And then I throw the cloth in a way where it's like a really ugly, uh, you know, pathetic kind of piece or character. And then I pour water on it. So the important part is that how you start working with the object, and that same object can take you through different stages of that emotion. And in this, I have used the card also along with my body to create a lot of emotions and the traveling of the emotion. So over here, she is breathing on that tonga, and her neck is thrown at the back, and she's moving towards the center of the stage, towards the edge. Now, again, I would say that just like in kitchen katha, I would have a 7 feet or 8 feet ladder. And I think at one point of time, maybe in Bangalore, I had a 11 feet high ladder. And with on this much platform, I used to stand and to talk about the aphrodisiacs and the recipes just to give that heightened emotion. If you do not have the balance, if you do not have the presence of mind, the meditative quality that I like to talk about, the precision that an actor must have, it is not possible to work. The presence of mind, if you do not have that, it is not possible to work with the object. So what happened over here, that in a show in rock gardens, I moved towards the edge and I almost went off. And thankfully, to an audience, one of them jumped into the pitch and pushed the cart back. Otherwise, I would have gone off. And I realized what had happened. I had realized what is happening, but I could not control it because there are wheels below the, this whole platform that we have. Going to the next, the mango thing. I think that was before this. So over here, go over there. So she starts driving the tonga herself. And again, there's a man sitting there. So how do you use your body with this man sitting on the platform to, take him around and to use the force in a way, the balance in a way where, I mean, he would almost, the platform would almost come off the floor and would fly in the air few inches. Uh, Again, a lot of training of the body and the balance with the rope and where you place your hand. If you place it a little forward, you will not be able to do that. If you go too close, it has to be just that balance to make it happen. Go to the mango thing. 2 slides. This is the scene where the officer tells her that you cannot get the license for the Tonga. You should go and become a prostitute. You're so beautiful, you will earn a lot of money. She feels so humiliated. Now, before this, she's eating that mango nicely just to talk to the traffic police guy. It's an ordinary action of eating a mango. But then what happens to this ordinary action once it is combined with an emotion? So the moment officer says that go to the bazaar and become a prostitute, um, she starts chewing the mango. And then over here, she talks with the mango in her mouth. And she says, I could have scratched his face. I want to gnaw on him. And if you can see, even the mango in the hand is almost squeezed and squashed. And then she spews it, just like she's spewing the words. And so, I mean, these are, yeah, the last imagery in this play is also quite interesting. Again, in the license, she dies. But Neelamji decided to change the ending by bringing in Bertolt Brecht's The Job. She took a reference from The Job. And the protagonist over here says that, why can't you give me the license? They say कि लड़कियों को टांगा चलाने का license नहीं मिल सकता. So she says, I'm already a man. I've been driving a tanga in the sun, at night, in rain, in sunshine. I'm already half man. But just to accentuate that feeling, I put 2 tomatoes on my breasts. Then I tie a white bandage. And when the scene arrives or the dialogues arrive, I squeeze the breasts, squash it. The breasts are squashed and squeezed, and it's almost like uh, defeminizing yourself. In the next one is I pull out the womb from below and I put it in my mouth and I tear it apart. It's like if these are the 2 things that make me a woman, then these kind of delicate qualities within me or the feminine qualities are almost half over because my husband is there, no more there, and I have become almost half masculine while leading this life. So that's what this play is about. Can we just come to the non-sharing thing? I would like to mention 2 things over there. One is the continuity of any image that you are doing. That, as I said, that it can go through lot of different emotions before you put it away. And then again, giving it completion. So if it's the cloth, it starts with rape, different stages of rape, then you nicely put it away, and then water is poured. So the question is that any property that one has invested energy in or has brought alive becomes alive in the mind of the audience. You cannot throw it away. You cannot sit on it as if you don't know you're sitting on that property. You cannot step on it as if you never knew that it existed, because now that inanimate object has been animated, has been invested with emotions, and it has emotions and feelings now. Um, Chandradasanji, shall I move to the directorial work of mine over here, or are there any questions? I can't hear you.
Yeah, sorry. So if somebody has to ask anything specific about what they have heard and seen right now, we can clarify that and then move ahead. That may be better, I think.
Yeah, can I ask a question?
Sure.
Yes, please. We can come in the gallery
Can you
view
hear me?
also. Yes, I can.
Yeah. Okay. My question is, the imagery is very, very interesting, very intense. And does it always communicate in its full power to the audiences, or do they receive part of it, just a feeling, or does it become very clear to the audience after a certain time?
See, a lot of times, or most of the time, when it's more of a metaphor or it's speaking an abstract language, uh, it can evoke different feelings in different people. And I think that's the beauty of it, because in life, love would mean so many different things to so many different people, and you will express it differently. In the same way, you will feel it differently. You will experience it differently. In the same way, when you're watching a creative visual or performance, each one of us will experience it differently, just like uh, falling in love. And we would have different analysis, different interpretation, different reaction to it. We may not even like something, or something might be too much, because sometimes I've seen very violent plays and I have to close my eyes, because it becomes, even though they are metaphors, but they become too much for me as an audience to even digest. So I tell it to a couple of my friends, sorry, I couldn't see that scene. It was too violent for me. So I think it would mean different things to different people. Was that your question, Paulji?
Yeah, my question was whether it gets conveyed to the audience exactly the way you intend, but I understand what you're saying, that it is interpreted by the audience according to their sort of perspectives, and that's absolutely fine. I mean, that's exactly what it should be. Thank you.
I would give an example over there that Neelamji always gives in Yarma. In the last scene where she kills her husband, in the original script, Yarma throttles the neck of her husband, which was not interesting enough for Neelam ma'am. So how she created it, that first she comes with, few fire burners and a cauldron, a pot which has red uh, water or blood, red blood, and she very beautifully walks towards her husband. And the moment she has to kill her, she splashes that red water and a white sheet comes. So the water splashes on the white sheet. So when we were performing in London, I think the two different interpretations that she got, and Yerma breaks the pot. So she says that I took different symbols of red being death, the pot being broken in the Hindu as a Hindu ritual, um, or Indian context, I would like to say. So in London, two interpretations came up. Someone came to her that I almost find it that it was the blood of Christ, and another one said that it was almost like the menstrual blood for me, that she is now
Okay.
getting, because after that she says, someone says that sleep with my sons, and she says, no, I only wanted to have children from my husband, and I've killed that hope by killing my own husband, and I can never have sons. So yeah, these were the two different interpretations that came.
Right.
But as long as I feel the base of the emotion can be felt by the audience, it's worth a try.
Yeah. Yes. Thank
Yeah,
you.
I'd love to just add one thing. Is in many of Neelam's production, Upendra has asked a question also regarding that. Neelam has used a lot of real objects in the play. Like in the kitchen katha, they've got all kind of vegetables and all those things, and the atta, all these things are there. Even in the license, that is the name which I forgot. The play is the license. I remember that play very clearly.
Right.
Uh, yeah, even in that play, they have got a lot of vegetables, drunks, these household materials, and the story happens there. And that last image where that a cabbage with a broken cut with the blood, etc., it becomes a kind of very strong metaphor or the main content of the play itself, transforms into the content of the play itself. So that kind of a transition of an object as a simple object, loaded up with the real meaning and the thing which the play wants to communicate, has been utilized in many of her works. Maybe Ramanjit can explain it, this aspect. And the question from Upendra is, can you elaborate on the thought process, bringing real objects onto the stage?
Yeah,
How?
can I
Yeah,
add little? Yeah. So, Ramanjit, I
Yes.
always feel the real object makes the actor little fragile, because in every moment or every play, the real object is a different real.
Is that?
So it's different. For me, it's different. If I have a prop, it is always with me. So it is not different for me. So when the real object is used, it comes as a different object always. And then it is very, very challenging and tricky for the actor. I want to know from you. And as an audience, when I watched your play in Bengaluru in Rangashankara, it's like very rustic and threatening. It's like, breathtaking for me. Nothing serious in it, but it creates that image. And what happens to an actor on stage with the real object? If you can explain, it will be very helpful. Yeah. Hope
I
I.
think there are two questions here. One is the thought process, or why the real
Yeah, both.
objects, or how is
Yes,
it, and
yes.
then
Two.
what is the
Yeah.
precision that is required, or the
Yes.
challenges that you face as an actor while working with real objects. So Neelamji always says that, my impulses or my inspiration comes from my life, and my life as a woman. Um, is the kitchen, and she is someone who loves buying the vegetables and the fruit herself. So she would go to the mandi, the big mandi, not the smaller ones that we have in each sector, the farmers vegetable market. And a lot of times she would take me with her when we were rehearsing, and she would buy them herself. And also she comes from a family, and as Sikhs, we are used to seeing those big tawas and big cauldrons, the langar being made. So the concept of langar is very, very big in our minds and our uh, visual emotional memories, or even now a part of our life. um, Working with real object or any object, because there's a lot of wood that is used, there's a lot of cloth that is used, or a lot of different kinds of things. Like, for example, in Sibo in supermarket, which was based in supermarket Salilakwi, a South African story. I used the trolley also as an image to create rape. The way I moved from the top to the bottom or wriggled within the trolley helped me create the violence of rape. So it's not necessary that we are all the time using real objects. And yet I feel, like I said, that in the license I use this cloth. And if do am I understanding it properly? When you say real, it means the fruit and the vegetable that kind of pass away. um,
Exactly, because yeah, exactly, because
yeah,
I mean,
because
regarding
fruit
the
and all
trolley,
are
I don't have.
different every time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It has its
So
own life. No, it
yeah,
has its
yeah,
own life.
absolutely,
The trolley
absolutely,
and other things are different, and that's okay. Yeah.
absolutely. So
Yes.
as I said, that even the cloth is used to create different emotions. But because our impulses are coming from a lot of other objects which are real in our life, we end up using it. Um, but yes, there are a lot of challenges that an actor faces while dealing with
Yes.
them. The tomatoes have to be just right.
Yes.
They cannot be long. They
Yes.
will not look like breasts. They have to be nice, round shaped. The hole to be done within that. And if you just squeeze the tomato, there won't be any red. So I do just that much hole, and I put sauce and some tiny bit of water in it, so that when I'm tying the bandage, it shouldn't come out before I squeeze it. So it's a lot of precision that is required. So what kind of tomatoes that is used. Again, cabbage. It may look like a cabbage, but it has to be the right size
Yeah.
that I can hide under my skirt. It has to be the corner cannot be very hard and has to be peeled off before I put it in my mouth. So the corner has to be enough that I can put it in my mouth, and the other side has to be already peeled off so that just with my hands I can tear it apart. In the same way, what happens to the mango? The gutli has to be neither too small nor too big because I have to put it in my mouth. Then again, um, I mean, a lot of other stuff, I would say, whether it's the nimbu that we are using, it has to be a certain shape. Anar has to be a certain kind and has to be cut just that much, neither more nor less. So, I think if that kind of answers your question, then we can move forward. That yes, there are a lot of challenges and we have to face them and we have to overcome them if we have to use this. But also coming back to Chandradasan ji, I got a answer while answering some students. Neelam ma'am had taken me to her department in Punjab University. I used to sneak into most of her classes, even though I was not a science student. Um, and that's another story that I didn't go to Indian Theatre Department or NSD because Ibrahim Al Qazi ji said that why do you want to join NSD? You've already joined NSD. So he compared Neelam ji, his student who was yet to start the journey. He had so much faith in her that he felt that I would be able to get good training over there. And I think I was very fortunate because the kind of language we've created or the travels that we have had. Yes, I do miss the networking of NSD, but it's been a beautiful, beautiful journey till date, and I feel excited about it till date. So I was in this department, and she was doing a improvisation on tea. They do any improvisation on tea. And I went in masti that, okay, I will sit down and watch the students. And suddenly she says, Ramanjit, why don't you get up and show the students? So I do, when she was a part of the department, she would invite me as guest faculty and I would train the students now and then, every now and then, whenever I would go to Chandigarh. But I was not ready for showing an improvisation myself that day. And then I went to their backstage to imagine what do I want to do. But because this was not my space, so I can't see you. So whosoever asked me that question, or Chandradasanji said that, you know, the inspiration or how or why would you get an inspiration? So there were all these things backstage which I was not used to. If it was cloth, it was as thick as the curtain cloth. There were objects that were lying bikra hua and nothing was inspiring me. Then I didn't know what to do and I kept on looking at the objects. And then I picked up three and I did the improvisation and it was quite okay. Neelam ma'am, I think, gave it passing marks and the students might have hopefully enjoyed it. But students asked me that, how did you come up with this, what you did? And that day, I think I was able to answer it that to prepare for any emotion, depiction of any emotion, I just go around. I look at the objects and I start talking to them. Sometimes an object may not talk to you, but the one lying next to it may start talking to you. And within that much time, the first one also may start talking to you. And it's there where they start telling you their story or they start interacting with you. It might sound philosophical or a bit unreal, but that's how I approach my improvisations. I do go out, I do have conversations with various objects, and then whichever one at that point of time is able to understand my story or I am able to connect with that object story is the object that I start working with to depict that emotion. Having said that, because we develop our work through improvisations, um, we try 100 different things to depict one single emotion, and then of course to come to a conclusion of what we are using. I mean, Kallai is here, I'm sure she will agree that how many improvisations we do before, and I'm sure all of you, I mean, even Lokadharmi must be working like that, and all the people who I can't see. So yeah, that all of us do, but approaching of the objects, this is how I work with them, by talking to them and listening to their stories. Yeah, I think the time is passing by,
I
Chandradasanji. If
have a
I can quickly
question.
show some of the directorial work and then come back to the questions.
Okay, fine, fine, fine. Left you.
Whatever you say, I'm okay with it.
No, it's fine. Go ahead.
Okay. So 2002, I started the creative arts in Calcutta while my work with Neelamji was also going on. And 2002, I met a director called Firenza Guidi who does site specific. 2003, I got Charles Wallace and went back and worked with her in Italy and different schools of Central School and Lambda and other places. My interest in site specific developed because I thoroughly enjoyed as an actor working in site specific. And I did a huge play called Is Job Channa Coming to Dinner at Swabhumi with 50 people. There were 25 children and 25 adults. So over there, I would say that the objects that were used in a real manner did not transcend themselves to imagery, but its juxtaposition with the space and the audience and the actors um, created metaphors. So because we had a flower market, then we had the fish market and the vegetable market. When the audience would travel inside, I mean, as most of us know, that site specific is a genre where the story is inspired by the site. The story comes out of the site, and the audience travels throughout the site to watch the performance. So when the audience would come in the central courtyard, the scenes were going on the first floor and the ground floor, and the kitchen was done, and the precision of the fish was um, created. But it was only later, during the merry-go-round in 2005 and 6, which was a story of a theater group. And I did it at Max Muller Bhavan. Now that building is shifted. Um, Two versions of it, the merry-go-round and the merry-go-round another spin. Story of a theater group where the audience comes in and they watch this theater group in their uh, behind the scenes spaces, what is their life behind the scenes. So when the audience comes, it's a cafe. The sets were done by Shaunchoy and Ghosh. I have done a lot of work with Shaunchoy and Ghosh. The technical was done by Shantanu Bose, who was the dean earlier of NSC. He used to live in Calcutta. So Shaunchoy had created, he had put mirrors on each table and the audience would be served tea. So when you start looking at yourself in a mirror, you're already getting a metaphor. You're already getting into a surreal kind of space. So the spaces that are real were converted, made into surreal, and the stage that is always decked up was left bare. So the audience sits in the cafe, they are served tea, and the actors come and whisper in your ear, and they write something on the mirror, and they start having a chat with you. Then you're taking through a journey through the back alleys. There's a scene in the kitchen. There's a scene in the bathroom which is shown to the audience through a mirror. Again, it creates multiple layers. Then there's a scene where a whole aluminium flooring was created by Sean Churns. And, in huge cauldrons, the cloth is being tied and tie-dye is happening. And the men are bare and they're sweating, so the whole sound of the aluminium flooring, the smoke and the fire that is coming out to do this tie and dye created a lot of imagery. Again, the audience is taken to the green room through a very tiny spiral staircase, but because we have to be practical and no one can fall and they cannot feel dizzy while climbing 2 floors of spiral staircase which are very tiny, we created a scene at the height of the first floor where two actors are coochie-cooing on a very high ladder. So they are watching the scene, they are moving upwards, they look at the scene and they're still looking at it, and they have reached the green room. So there's no realization that you're going in a spin and climbing the staircase. The green room, again, there are 10 prima donnas or, divas or actresses getting ready, and about 40 to 50 people squeezed together. So the audience coming together where you are squeezed with each other, you are in close proximity with the actors where you can almost feel the breath, the sweat, um, creates a different kind of feeling, metaphor, imagery, because now the space has changed for you. Your interaction as an audience with the space and the actor has changed for you. Then they were taken through the wings, which are dark. The stage is dark. They were made to sit on the stage, and the scenes happen with torches on the in the two wings and on the stage. And when the curtain opens, the audience finds that they are on the stage and the actors are in the audience. Now, again, the use of space is being used as imagery in that play because we wanted to do a role reversal. So, a very real physical um, mm, juxtaposition or placing of the audience was used. In the second version, because an actor is leaving, there's a farewell party. So when the audience is brought onto the stage, there's a huge table like the Last Supper, and the audience is made to sit on both sides of the table, and Shanchan had put dried leaves on the table, and there's a scene on the table. They're served wine and cheese. The audience is served wine and cheese, so you get a feeling that it's all very real, but actors come and sit next to you. So when it enters into the play, when it becomes real, when you're having a real conversation with the actor, and when that conversation is actually part of the script, is something um, that was explored in this, you know, site specific. Now, starting again, with the children that we work, we create original plays and we've used a lot of imagery, but I'm not getting into that today. I will move on to my play with the women actors. In 2011, I created all women theater group, and we created our first play, Bavre Man Ke Sapne. If we can have images of that. I'll quickly rush through these because I think we've had a lot of conversation about images. This is a bed scene and she's spilling a lot of cotton. Um this is where she's talking about how she used to play with her young brother and they were so much in love and now he's no more. So she creates a reet ka ghar jo wo log ek sath banate the, and the toys that she uses, and then she uses a whole lot of range of cars that she used to love a lot. Next. This is Pragya. Earlier one was Shiri. This is Shilpa, Vinita. Why I'm naming them? Because they come from non-theater background, but they've really beautifully lent themselves to training themselves as intensely as theater people would do. So they've given time to, or they give time continuously to train in Kalari Payatu, Chau, Buto, Kathak, and many other voice and all kinds of training. Whenever, so Chandadasanji, you have to come, and Kalai, you have to come and train the actors. This is Vinita and Shilpa, two siblings talking about jealousy. Yeah, we can go to the next. This is almost the last scene where they take the last sip and they say that we are not going to succumb to any kind of violence, whether emotional or physical. Next. This was a kind of visual that was created because Amma is telling them that I am going to London and I have this whole list of things that you all should do. But because she is over the top about it, so I thought it requires a exaggeration, some kind of exaggeration. So we thought of creating a long list that needs so many people to carry it. And we have Kamal Aluwalia, Vinita, Aarti Shri, Nandita, Bhavna, Anita, Pragya, Namrata, and Sonia carrying it. Going to the next. Again, Simao Se Pare is a play which talks about partition stories. It is about stories from Bangladesh, um, India, present India, and Pakistan. So partition on both sides. And it was contextualized or placed in a railway platform where all these women are hiding and their stories are coming out. And what happens? So over here, this is a woman who says that I had to dress up as a guy, and she has a doll, and the whole imagery of hair was used very intensely in the scene to say that the hair, that is the woman herself, or they dress up like two sardars, and then again the doll coming in or pulled away, and she I mean, so the hair become a metaphor for from beauty to changing disguise to becoming violent where they are being pulled and dragged. So they kind of depict a lot of emotions in this scene. Then again, this is not the right picture because this actor later on uses the ladder and she is lying on her stomach, balancing herself on a stomach on the top of the ladder and doing a swimming, movement to depict the crossing of a river and lot of violence that is going around. Um, okay, Burning Bubbles was a site specific that I did with my actors at an art gallery, and this is the scenes would start all together in three rooms, so audience could go to A, B, or C, or CBA or BAC, any room first and then go to the next, and the actors would perform in three loops. So you would finish a 15-minute performance but continue in a very lyrical manner while the next audience is coming in and this one is going to the next room. In the three rooms, this was based on the house of Bernarda Alba. So, how this art gallery tells the story of the house of Bernarda Alba by Federico Garcia Lorca. And the three rooms for me became the room of awakened desires, the room of childhood memories, and the room of suppressed desires. This was the room of awakened desires, where the actor is almost having a bath. So it's a very sensuous scene. And if you remember the young daughter who's full of passion and she wants to have a lover, and again, she's using a lot of objects to show that the bubble paper was used to show the bath, the real bath that she's having. And over here, the audience was put into a net. So the audience is watching a play through the net, watching the play through the net. Next. Don't we have the other one where these actors are? Yeah. Okay. This is again the awakened room, the same room where the other one is, that's Bernarda Alba, and she is ironing the cloth of the dowry or endless cloth that she's doing. And she also starts ironing herself, and then there's a mask. So, but the net plays a very important role in this one. Another actor has a lot of pillows and more images, but I want to rush to the childhood memory room. Go back. This is the room with childhood memory where we used, we blindfolded the audience and bring them to this room, and we give them five senses in terms of chocolate. We serve them marbles to feel, powder. Unko they smell the powder. Then unko pankha kiya jata hai with a newspaper, giving them senses that would evoke childhood memories. There's a lot of sand on which the actors are working, but in this one I use optical illusion. So the optical illusion is done on the ceiling, so the audience has a 3 or 4 dimensional experience while watching the actors going through those five senses themselves, and looking at it on the ceiling also, which are again different images that are being projected on the ceiling. Going to the next, this is the last room, the room of suppressed desires, which you can see could be the storeroom of the gallery, which it was, but we Sathidas, did it as installations. This is where Bernarda Alba and her daughters are actually all encased when the audience comes in, as if they are encased in a painting. And at a certain point of time, the projection, the optical illusion is such as if the painting is bleeding. So a lot of um, optical illusion and projections were used in this play. And then the actors come to the main gallery, and the audience also, a technique is used to bring them to the gallery. This is, of course, the whole huge cloth and things. Then going to the next, this is Beyond Borders, and I will rush through it because even though this has a lot of images, but there's also a clipping that I want to show. Beyond Borders is about Beyond Borders, talks about immigration issues and beyond borders of nation, color, caste, religion. And again, the actors are creating a lot of imagery with their body and objects, if you can see on the right, and how they juxtapose themselves with objects. This is a scene on the right. If you see, she is playing a transgender, and she is sitting on a huge long 6 feet slab, and the transgender has just had a surgery and wrapped in the plastic, just like you are wrapped after the surgery. And her interaction with the ice and the plastic is what creates the intensity of the emotion. Yeah, the actors carrying themselves and hiding into things. Again, a lot of physicality used, a lot of, again, blindfolding was used to, this talks about politics and power. And this is a scene which is a wedding scene, and all of them are tying and working with each other's hair. And later on, my Marwari actors told me that they do have a ceremony, Bal Gundhne ki, Shadi mein. And yes, so they're talking about the hair, and a lot of context of the hair comes in के मुझे तो लंबे बाल पसंद हैं, उससे मेरे घुंघराले बाल पसंद थे, और वो तो मुझे तो एंड में एक एक्टर कहती है कि लंबे बाल, ये बाल खींच के ही तो मुझे मारता था. So from a very beautiful and laughing scene, it gets into a grotesque emotion and a violent emotion. This is creating the borders and different images that actors had created. This image where she has dolls tied all around her, was for us the showcasing, or the metaphor for the whole Syrian crisis, and the image of this little boy lying on the beach side, the image that became so popular. um, and again, the blindfoldedness, the power and the politics scene. um, the actor is being carried because बहुत बात करती थी, so obviously she was killed. So this is the scene where they are almost moving, as if the migrants were moving from one place. So they are in a tub, and the tub has wheels, and the rest of the group walks together. So they have plants in their hand, but this is the last scene, and a lot of sand falls on them. So it's like they're carrying hope in the middle of storm. That's what this play talks about, and we can quickly see the clipping of this play if possible.
Oh, superb.
Yes, yes, Kali, you are
Oh,
right.
thanks,
Yeah,
Kalari. I
no
thought
way.
where was the sound coming from?
Yes, yes.
Woo-hoo. Otherwise, I'll do our way.
We are just two
Yeah.
admirers of each other's work, Kalari.
No way. See, full stage. I'm seeing ladies. When I came Usha Ganguly ma'am's festival, I saw one nearly 300 actress. So it's give a full kick. How come 300 actress? And
Yeah.
here I am seeing through my eyes so many actors.
Yeah.
Wow, you people are
Thank you.
so
Thank you.
lucky. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you. You're very
continue.
kind.
Yeah, continue.
Nobody leaves home unless home is the mouth of a shark. फर्क पड़ता है कि कोई अपनी सारी दुनिया एक छोटे से थैले में समेटे चले जा रहा हो। उसे तो पता भी नहीं उसे कितनी दूर जाना है। कोई उसका अपना भी होगा कि नहीं?
Standing behind glass bars, they can see through, but can't get through to the other side of the lies of democracy. We all have blood on our hands. But I want to dance with my fear. I want to dance a dangerous dance.
Chapter 1, Chapter 2, Chapter 3 सारे के सारे मर गए।
तुम भी चलो, मैं भी चलूं। जाए कहाँ पता नहीं, चल पड़े सब मगर रास्ता पता नहीं।
You're on mute, ma'am.
Unmuted. Lights have been created by Daulat Vaidji. It was his birthday yesterday. He creates. Sorry. Daulat Vaid does the lights of all my plays, and of course Neelam ji ke saath karte karte sambandh ban gaya. Daulat Vaid does the light of all my plays. And Pandit Tanmoy Bose ji designs the music for a lot of my plays. He's a wonderful musician. There's some sound coming up from someone's mic, but we can go to the next. Slide of, and this is the last play that I will be showing. Chandradasan ji, someone's mic is on, na?
Yeah, please switch it off.
We can see Dice of Desires. This is a play where, so Kallai, you were talking about the numbers. Beyond Borders at International Theatre Olympics in Jaipur, wala jo show tha in Jaipur, 29 women performed on the stage, and their age was 18 years to 70 years, 70. So that was the range we had, 29 of them. And Dice of Desire is a play based on Mahabharata, and it is about the women characters of Mahabharata, and one character is played by multiple actors, and it also brings out a lot of very subtle emotions or feelings of the women characters of Mahabharata. We almost read for 1 year before getting into a play, so we've read a lot of material on Mahabharata and brought out some emotions of power, ambition, sensuality, sexuality, desire to have children or power for children, desire for education. A lot of stuff is brought out in this play which explores the women of Mahabharata. This is a scene where this play is co-directed by my Vansh Bhardwaj, and I have co-directed this play. And in this scene, you can see, some head coming out or a limb coming out, and a lot of Gandharis are there. They are calling out to Krishna that how you've done this to me. And their eyes are blindfolded with flowers, because we wanted to, bring out many different layers to her being blind, because for us it wasn't there was lots behind it when she thought of becoming blind. And these are again all the Draupadis. This is the Chirharan scene, and to show how she's saved by the Krishna within herself, because Krishna says that no one can shame you if you don't want to be shamed. We used more Pankh to feel protected. Again, Chow dance was used by Shomagiri to depict the character of Chitrangada. And this is the 5 things that she has tied all around. This is after the, Chirharan scene of Draupadi. And this is Draupadi, played by Pragya. And she's carrying these 5 things, depicting the 5 brothers. And then when she's sitting, she pulls out each one, that why couldn't you do this, or why couldn't you do that? And then her whole working with these elements that she has, the water and all the cereals that she's carrying, evokes her whole, takes her to the journey of that I'm going to take a revenge. I will not rest till I take revenge. And then, of course, this is a scene of sensuality and sexuality, but I don't have too many pictures. I kind of, again, drop the dressing up, where Krishna says that you are as beautiful as you think that you are. And yeah, and if we could quickly see again a 5-minute video, then I'm done, Chandradasan ji. May I have the permission?
Sure, you have.
Just 5 minutes.
धर्मस्य इतना पक्षपात किया, अपने अनुजों को छोड़ मेरे कुल पर घात किया। हाँ, ना, ना, मेरे भोले मन, कुछ निर्णय धर्म की रक्षा के होते हैं। जो हुआ ठीक ऐसे ही होना था। अब मुझे इन गुड्डे गुड्डियों के साथ ही अच्छा लगता है दीदी। हम भी तो इन कठपुतलियों की जैसे तो हैं, जिनकी अपनी कोई इच्छा ही ना हो। पहले पिता के घर से इच्छा के विरुद्ध अपहरण हुआ और फिर पत्नी के रूप में एक रोगी और कामों को सौंप दिए गए। क्या ऐसा होना उचित था?
अंबिका और अम्बालिका का विवाह महारानी सत्यवती ने अपने पुत्र चित्रवीर से कराया। ऐसे राजा साल से प्यार करती।
तुम हो भीष्म, तुम महर्षि वशिष्ठ ने मुझे 100 पुत्रों का वर दिया था। ये मांस का लोथड़ा मेरे 100 पुत्र है, पर उनका वर तो कभी खाली नहीं जाता। उन्होंने मुझे बताया कि इस मांस के लोथड़े के 100 टुकड़े कर घी के घड़ों में भर, यही मेरे 100 पुत्रों के रूप में विकसित होंगे।
लगन पति सती संग परमा सुख अति आनंदन, परमा सुख अति आनंदन, लागी लगन पति सती।
कृष्ण तो मुझसे भी कह रहा है ना। फिर उनमें ऐसा कौन सा आकर्षण है कि गोपियां चारों तरफ घूमती रहती है? और दूर खड़े कृष्ण मेरे मन की बात समझ गए। कहने लगे, द्रौपदी, कोई भी समस्या तब तक समस्या रहती है जब आप उसे ऐसा मानते हैं। दुनिया आपको वैसा ही देखेगी जैसा आप अपने आप को देखते हैं। एक दिन हमारे घर एक जादूगरनी आई। You know, this sorceress with a tattooed chin. She taught me how to braid my hair. She taught me yogic breathing. In the end, she taught me the art of seduction. जादूगरनी ने मुझे ये तो बता दिया कि कैसे रिझाना है, और मेरा दिल तो जोर जोर से धड़क रहा था उस साधु की बातों को याद करके। जब मेरे केश पकड़े मुझ रजस्वला को घसीटते हुए भरी सभा में ले जाया जा रहा था, तो नकुल और सहदेव क्यों चुप रहे? अर्जुन ने अपना गांडीव उठा दुर्योधन के हृदय को क्यों नहीं भेजा? भीम ने दुशासन के मलिन हाथों को पकड़कर क्यों नहीं उसे वही चीर दिया? और धर्मराज युधिष्ठिर से अपनी पत्नी का चीरहरण होता देख उनका धर्म क्यों नहीं जागा? और मैं प्रतिशोध की अग्नि से जन्मी, प्रतिशोध में जलती रहूंगी जब तक कि मैं दुशासन और पूरे कौरव वंश के लहू में स्नान नहीं कर लेती। अपने प्रतिशोध के लिए मैं कोई भी कीमत देने के लिए तत्पर हूँ। विनाश ही मेरे जीवन का उद्देश्य है, एकमात्र लक्ष्य है।
5 पतियों को याद करूं जिनकी सेवा में मैंने सर्वस्व समर्पित कर दिया था, लेकिन विडंबना देखिए, मेरे अंतिम क्षणों में कोई एक भी मेरे साथ नहीं। या अपने उन 5 पुत्रों को याद करूं जो इस महायुद्ध में बलि चढ़ गए।
Yeah, so that was my sharing. And I'm happy to answer or share whatever more. This is a absolutely new play, so it has not been chewed enough. Dice of Desires only had 2 shows. But yeah, Beyond Borders is something that has had many shows. Over to you, Chandradasanji.
Yeah, if people can come in and ask questions and the discussion, comments, whatever they would love to. We're getting a lot of comments of appreciation in Facebook and in the chat also, but let people come directly and talk back.
Can I ask a question right now?
Sure.
So at the beginning of the imagery session, you were showing like props, kind of objects, real things. So what I want to ask is like we have I have seen people like rehearsing for a lot of times without the props, without the real objects, and when it comes to the real production only, the real prop comes in the hand of the artist. So that case of emotion and real stuff, what is the difference? Like if an artist is like preparing with rehearsals without the object, and yeah.
Could you tell me your question again, please? That if the artist is working without the object and with the object, what is the difference?
It's not like I would say briefly like
English.
So like I am just talking about the rehearsing. Like you will be having the production only after a few times of rehearsing, right? So so at the time of rehearsing, the artist won't have the props with him, like the whatever the cart, the fruits. So in the time of production only, the props like fruits, cart, things comes up. So the passing of emotions through that, yeah.
So very important question. Are you trying to say that in rehearsal sometimes we do not have the props, or jab performance hoti hai ya uske paas mein we do have the props?
Yeah.
Is that the question? So I have been trained by a guru who gives us the props and the objects right from the beginning of the improvisation. And even if it was a play like Kitchen Katha where the food was cooked every day, fortunately we could manage enough grant or funding, or how she did it, we don't know. We were too young to understand that. But we had food every day. So I have continued that process in my work as a director. The actors get the props right from the first day. And in fact, the day they do not have a prop is a day that they are dead, you know, because it's not possible to not work the precision that someone talked about, that real objects, you know, what is the precision that you need, that the emotion or the usage of that prop doesn't go haywire, can only happen if you're using it every day. Supposing in the license, I have a branch and I want to squeeze milk out of it. If I do not practice it every day and I do not have some failures of it's pouring out early or not opening one day, I will never know the exact precision of doing it properly at the performance. So it's very important that right from the first day to all the days of the till the show and on the show, we have the props with us.
Ramanjit, it's good to rehearse and to prepare with the prop. So can you just remember any instance whether the use of props develops from day one to when it comes to as the performance, it gets larger meaning, more elaborate or more powerful kind of existence. Might have been also removed some props in between also. So how was the journey with the prop, the rehearsal to
Remove some prop.
yeah, some images, some material as the rehearsals goes on.
I think the license as an actor was my last, I mean, the recent or the play that we have done recently, that with ma'am. So license, I would say when I talked about the cloth, and the reason I talked about the cloth, Chandradasanji, was exactly what you have asked me, that how, the one object keeps transforming into many other, it keeps उसका जो use है for depicting the emotion keeps increasing also. So the cloth which I was wiping the tonga with, then again comes into, uh, becomes the same cloth through which she depicts the rape, becomes the same cloth through which she addresses the audience. Then that's the same cloth that I make into a thin string and I beat it in between my legs to create the violence of the rape. Then the way I drop it down, it's almost like throwing away an ugly character or an ugly moment of your life and pouring water on it. So that was one thing that kind of takes a heightened thing. जो branches or milk का scene है या the cabbage and the tomatoes was done during a workshop. So we were workshopping on a project that Neelam ji was working on, Nachiketa. She had a collaboration with UK and I was workshopping with her. So during all these improvisations, I was using crazy amount of objects because it's just a workshop. You can take liberty to do anything. And I would carry 100 kinds of objects on myself and then see where they go. So when I did the tomato and the cabbage thing, in fact, during the earlier improvisations, when you're talking about taking out of the extra and just keeping what is required. So I used to have all kinds of fruit all over me. There were oranges that was used and there was, so it's like, just to experience the sensuality of the fruit, the reality of the fruit, the emotions within the fruit. And lot of fruit was used during the workshop time. But when we came to the decision of how she's talking about that I'm almost masculine now and so much of my feminine is dead anyway, so what are you telling me that you will not give me the license? So I kind of kept it to the bare minimum of just 2 tomatoes and cabbage. And the reason, license, we managed to do it within 3, 4, 5 days of at least you know this protagonist part of the monologue. And of course she had to create the whole music and the background with Kik Kariwal. But this protagonist, because we had workshopped a lot earlier for 10, 15 days in another month, at another point of time. So when I had done that, I used a whole lot of stuff that came during my improvisation. So yes, it happens a lot of times where the same thing keeps taking a further role and a further, that is one piece that keeps developing with your emotions. And that can only happen if each rehearsal you take as a do or die situation. You cannot say कि आज rehearsal है हम कल अच्छा कर लेंगे, because then you will never have time to live that emotion. If you do not live that emotion to complete intensity, at that point of time, then again you will never be there. Someone asked me just now, Nias asked me that, do you have the object in your hand all the time? If I do not live with that object every day with full emotion, then I will never explore the full relationship of that object, the actor, and the emotion. how three of us are going to live together and what is going to be our journey. Only if we do that every day, we indulge in it every day, we are going to increase the parameters of that relationship. I feel it's almost like relationships, you know. A lot of time we say that, oh, it gets boring after a certain point of time, and marriage is full of boredom after a certain point of time. I feel that if both the people invest enough every day in giving water to that relationship, giving water to those emotions, there's no limit to where the emotions can reach in a lifetime, or what all can you experience with full intensity over a period of your life. And I think that remains the same with an art form.
Chandra,
Does
just
that
add
answer
one
your
thing.
question?
Yeah, sure, sure. Yes, KK.
Yeah, Ramanjit ji, namaskar.
Namaskar, Gopal.
Yeah, you know, the Kathakali from Kerala is an art form which use very less properties, perhaps tool only. But earlier, now they are not practiced. In Kathakali, there is a training method called Ra-Cholliyatam. Cholliyatam means acting according to the librettos. Ra-Cholliyatam means Ra means Ratri, night. So after sunset, especially the Kalamandalam and by the master, the master who introduced was Pattikandodi Ravunimana, who died in 1948. And the first guru at the Kalamandalam. There they have to wear very little bit of attire, and they have to take the weapons like the club, the bow and arrow, all these things, and they have to practice. Then the explanation they gave is for the precision of handling these weapons after wearing a big coat. It is not possible to rehearsal with all the costumes, as the costuming take around 4 to 6 hours depending upon the character. So the boys were trained with handling the weapon so accurately, and that ensured that while playing with this weapon, like bow and arrow or the club, they'll use very minimum. They should not touch the other artists also.
They should not
Touch the other artist. Sometimes it may be a beating scene, but they cannot touch them.
I mean, the co-actors' safety is of prime importance.
No, because they wear that white border called chutti. So if somebody touch, sometimes it may fall. This paper chutti, everything came only during the 1940s. Before that, it was only rice paste. But for the precision, they used it. I just want to add that point. So I think it is a practice through perfection. So economy comes next only. You know, even though the budget is low.
Yeah, and you know, these art forms, Gopal, is also, they are a big study and very good for actor training in how to use body to the maximum, the face to the maximum in experiencing these emotions or depicting these emotions. And that's why if we train in these classical forms, you become you have a lot of tools as an actor to play around with. You know, a lot of times actors say ke isme kya training zuri hai ya, but if you do not have enough tools, how are you going to play around in that art form if you do not have the skills? So these I mean, we are very blessed to have these kind of art forms which teach us so much of, you know, work with the body and the face. And yes,
similarly in Kalaripat, in which I was also trained, the disciple is first trained for the defense. We called Pinkal. Pinkal and Munkal is the guru. So after training in the defense only, he is given the offense to discipline the body and mind.
Yeah.
And that is why I think some of the theater people, when they got trained in Kalaripat, you can see in their body flexibility. What a defense means, not only physical defense, even the body defense.
True.
Internalization is coming there. Yeah. Thank you so much.
Okay, Jolie Buddhishwari wants to ask something. Jolie, come up. Jolie from Hyderabad Central University.
Hello, hello. Am I audible?
Hello. Hi.
Yeah. So nice
Hi, Jolie.
so nice to see you without makeup. I have seen you with makeup. So this was a couple of times, and I still remember the way you mold your Rani. You know, I still feel like smelling you. So it was so nice So such a range of performance. So it was so nice. But the question is very simple. I didn't have the question. I heard about your what do you call the two of the productions which I have seen. This is Dies of Mahabharata and the installation based on Bernardo Alba. But the thing is, like, what I have seen is lots of Neelam is still within you. So, like from Peter Brook to, Neelam. Neelam used a lot of property like Peter Brook and conversions and
Neelam
things like
uses lot of?
the Peter Brookian style of conversion, addition of property. That's okay. That's a different thing. I don't want to bring it. The same thing happens in the La Costume. No, the La Costume and the suit is same. La Costume is done by Peter Brook first, then comes the suit. Anyway, that's a different thing. I really wanted. I have seen a little bit of traits of Nelken also in your production, Pinabosh, Nelken kinds of visuals. So I do like to know, but it's wonderful to see a couple of the edited versions of your all lady group performing the play. So it's so wonderful. So I just wanted to know what are the other influences which mold you to become a director. Some of the scenes exactly look like Neelam shows because of the lighting designer is the same. So the traits are same, So what are the other things? I just simply, if you think, what are the other influences which makes you?
Very important question, Jolie. And, a lot of time I'm just coming back to the gallery part of it. And, I do not take it as a hindrance or a weakness. I take it as my strength. And I think all of us are made of all the history that we have, the family that we were born in, the house where we lived, the guru that we had, the training that we had. Apart from that, I think lot is picked up from Clive Barker's theater games and exercises. I am very influenced by Firenze Guidi's site-specific work. So that is something that I trained under her. And yes, Pina Bausch is a big inspiration in my life. I breathe her every day. And there's no reason why your work should not be inspired by these artists. But also your question is actually quite positive, that what are the other influences that are there on my work. So Firenze Giri would be one. Aryan Manushkin I trained under for 3 months at Teatro du Soleil. So all the work with Commedia dell'arte, the masks and a lot of stuff, the largeness of productions, which also Neelamji has. Then again, I would say Bhutto plays a lot in my productions, which you saw in Beyond Borders, and a lot of movements that you didn't see in Dice of Desire. Working with Bhutto artists, Rizom Lee Master comes and works with my actors. Then again, training ourselves in Kalari and Chow continuously showcases in my work. And I would say that my own bit would be exploring sites specific to the maximum, working on a lot of other media, optical illusions, the projections, working in an all women theater group is another exploration that is, mine, and the challenges are my own because I'm also working with non-theater people. They are doctors, artists, visual artists, designers, homemakers. They are everything but theater people, and yet I want the same training for them, and they indulge in that training or give time for that training just the way we theater people would do. And some of them are here, and I'm happy to see Aarti and Shalini, Bhavana. A lot of people are there, and Taranjeet is here, who's also worked with Neelam ma'am and is a brilliant film actor. So I would just say Bhavna, Aarti, Pragya, Renu, Shalini, Taranjeet, all of them are there, and so they would agree that we get influences from all over, because if Chandradasan ji would come to Calcutta, I would have them work with my actors. So there's no way that they can escape that influence. Like Seema Biswas came and worked with them. If Kallai is going to come, and I have already requested her in one of the seminars in Delhi, and now I'm requesting her openly now, that come and work. And there's no way that whatever days they work with Kallai, they will escape that. But what happens is all the memory or the skill that your body and mind is picking up is reflected subconsciously in your art form. So you become an amalgamation of all the influences. Now, the other day, Anita Ratnamdi asked me to do a piece for Boxed series, right? And I did it under the dining table. I used toys of my little one. And Chitra Sundaram, the sitting in UK, called it like, you know, the Alice in Wonderland and all those kind of surreal things that she says that it took another layer because you were using these tiny teacups. But what I did, getting under the dining table, showing the feeling of the lockdown, but I had a lot of movement of the migrant laborers. And so it was migrant laborers, but I used the poem like Mani Ma, Vikheta, Edda Mota, Todarka. So where did that get inspired from? The dining table. Lockdown may we are all eating with the family. The little one is always cribbing. It's always about her toys and her stories. So my whole piece got inspired by my little one's toys, stories, songs that I tell her. So I think you are a product of everything that you experience every day. And how that gets translated into your work is a mystery. And you never know. Because you don't take a conscious decision about putting it. It just happens as a part of the process.
Yeah, so nicely put and so nicely here. Thank you so much. Thank you so much to share. You know, it was wonderful to hear you. Thank you, Lokadharmi.
I am also happy to share that someone very senior has taken out time to join us here. And I mean, in case if it's comfortable for him, this is Bhai Baldeep Singh Ji Chandadasan Ji. He is one of the renowned music maestros and conservators. I mean, he's renowned all over the world and is doing this amazing music series, amazing Batak series where he's inviting artists from all over the world to share their stories, and these battles go on from 1 hour to 9 hours. So we have the inside processes of so many musicians, dancers, theater people from all over the world. So in case you all want, you can go to the Anath Foundation and see this battle series, and you will get insights into so many amazing artists. So if it's comfortable for Baldeep ji to come up or write to us, I big thanks and thank you for coming here, and thank you Taranjeet for taking out time to. My team says that he's written a message here. Can we get that? Okay, fine. So he's written a message. I don't know whether it's comfortable for him to come up, but yeah, anyone else?
It's a pleasure. Thank you so much for. It was fantastic. The conversation. I was actually writing my work meantime, but it was fantastic. I mean, I'm a layman. I'm a spectator. I have enjoyed watching theatre. Very little indulgence, but it is very educative. And I thank Chandadasanji for hosting this, and I really enjoyed the video. And I'm just kidding. I don't want to interrupt much, but compliments. And I'm enjoying really looking into learning about all that goes into the production, theatre production. It is the what we call the Sampurna Vidya. It has like Natya Shastra. It has the not just Gityam, Vadyam, Nrityam. It has the Pada within the text, the literature, the poetry, prose. It is the complete expression, and I'm just a fan. Thank you very much for the shout out. Compliments.
Thank you so much for joining us. We are deeply touched that you have taken up time to join us.
My pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. And she has put up a question in the chat box.
Kalai, you want to say something? Who's put up a question?
Anakha Deshpande from Goa. She has put up. Is Anakha, are you there? Can come up and ask? Shall I read it?
I'm Anuja.
Yeah.
I just wanted to ask you, in one clip I could see Krishna is portrayed by women artists. Then I remembered while talking, you said you have a whole women group. Is there any specific reason to have only women's group?
It just happened to me like a love affair. So these women, a group of women, a couple of them were mothers of the children who were training with us, and they said they want to do theater, and I told them no, you cannot do theater. So I was a very not so gentle artist. I think I was a very mean artist, and I was judgmental that they cannot do theater. हम सिर्फ theater वाले लोग theater कर सकते हैं. So I said you cannot do theater because my theater is very physical and rough, and you are the women who are gentle and tender and live with Gucci's and Pradas and other brands. But I must say that I was completely wrong, and they've proven me wrong again and again, because they've been there for the rehearsal at 7:30 in the morning, and if I don't leave them till 9 p.m., they will not go. If they are refused food for Beyond Borders, there was a time I did not give them lunch, and they were hungry and they were crying. And I'm talking about 50, 60, and 70 years old. And Neela ma'am will kill me if she hears that, because this is no way to train people. But I don't know, we all end up doing what we have to do. One day I asked them to eat their lunch while facing the wall. And that's when they had a cathartic moment, because it was so lonely to eat your meal while facing a wall. So there was no specific reason, like love. It happened to me. And I think it's a beautiful love relationship that we are living, because and it's very intense. It gets very painful, because Jaipur mein koi mazak kar raha tha that we cannot handle one woman. How can you handle 29? So I would say, Kallai was also saying so many. Kallai, I would say that they are handling me. I think I am blessed that it's almost like they are keeping me in their hands. My life has become so much more rich. So talking about influences, Jolie, their lives have influenced a lot of my work, because what happens in their lives has also influenced the way the stories are coming up, or the productions are coming up. So, and the Krishna bit, I'm so glad you asked that question. So they were exploring women characters, but they kept on seeing that Krishna was one character they could not avoid. Every time he would peep in. So one of them did Krishna, then two of them prepared all the improvisations with two Krishnas. One was the Man and one was the Mastishk, the mind and the heart. So that's what they became. But then in one of the improvisations, there was a third Krishna. So in the end, when they all take off their chogas, going on the final yatra, like in Mahabharata, in the end, it's the three Krishnas who even take off their mukut, and so it was interesting to have three Krishnas in the play, played by women.
And anybody else to come up with a question, maybe a last question? And maybe Taranjit can come up and speak something.
And Kallai, you were saying something. Let's hear you.
Oh, it's very, very interesting, fantastic. Like kind of actors, no, young actors, and who are going to start. It's a mind-blowing thing, because you talked about, touched everything, and the way how you work. So I'm so happy and proud, and I am proud that you are working with so much actors, actress. It's a very pleasure, and it's very good thing what you are doing. And you, with the way you kind of doing workshops also, it's not a part of the play. Other way also you are working with women, so it's very nice thing. I'm not saying men, no men like that, but this is a nice way you are working. And for me also, I felt now this time, I also now after seeing you, I want to put my next gear and want to start. Thank you so much. It's very pleasure to see you the way you are talking, and good thanking to Chandradas very much. Thank you
Thank
so
you
much.
so much, Kalai, for coming. I'm so touched that you are here because it makes the session very meaningful for me. Because if you know, we both of us as two actresses have almost, been there together during four. I mean, thank you for coming. It means a lot to me. Taran, will you be able to unmute or come on video as Chandadasanji was saying?
Hi, good afternoon, everybody.
And Kalai,
Thank
you
you.
have been an inspiration for me throughout. You should know that. Yes, over to you, Taran. Sorry.
Hi, good afternoon, everybody. Thank you, Chandra Dasanji, for
But that was
asking
such a
me.
lie, Taran. I think that was such a lie.
What was the lie?
She lied that you were the inspiration. Come on.
No, I talked about Kalai Rani, but yes, Taran is an amazing writer. She is
Acha,
also
okay,
an
okay.
inspiration.
Wrong number.
No. Taran is, of
Taran,
course.
Taran, can you tell us some of the things that you don't like in her work?
Okay, I think let me first say some good things and then
No,
come
no, no,
to.
no, no.
So I would say I think I've been, of course, it's been a very delightful session to sit at one point and see the range of work Ramanjit has done over the past 35 years. I mean, it's huge. The quantity of work and her range of work is huge. I have been fortunate being a sister to be seeing almost all the productions she ever worked in, of course, especially on the stage. And also, I've been fortunate to be directed both by Neelam ji and Ramanjit, two directors who have a great influence of me as an actor and as a writer now. Mm, of course, Neelam ji's work also comes from a lot of theater of imagery, and we have learned from her how every image that we use needs to be organic and it has to come and evolve. And we've used all those properties in our rehearsals. And it's always when we are performing on stage, it's much, much larger than life. Like one small pomegranate can be a huge image when you're performing on stage. And while I was working with Neelam ji and Ramanjit being my co-actor, I would say she's, I mean, even as a co-actor, you're almost awestruck by her because when she's performing, you do not realize that she's Ramanjit or she's your sister because she's absolutely transformed. Of course, I don't say such good things to her in our life, but yeah, she completely transforms into another character. Coming to working with her as an actor while she started her journey as a director in Kolkata. I think the most fascinating part here was while a lot of tools she uses are very inspired by so many different people, as she said, all the different mentors she had in her life. But what was very different in Neelam ji's and the work when I started working with Ramanjit, that all the works while we were doing with Neelam ji, it was all text based. Here we completely came into a space where from day one everything was improvised. So for a month or 2 months, we would just keep on improvising just with one idea, and almost 10 days before the show we wouldn't know what we're going to be performing, and we'll be completely clueless and asking her, okay, now can you please finalize. And I think the most fascinating one production that I remember is Merry Go Round, which she mentioned, and I would ask her if she can share a little more detail about it, because it was the first site specific production for me as an actor, traveling with the audience on the stage, backstage, taking the audience in a stage with closed curtains. Yeah, and even the following productions, Upon a Yarn, was based on women short stories, which was a very intense, emotional journey of a couple of different women. And yeah, all the different, and yes, of course, Crab Soup we did, which we also performed in London, where my co-actor.
Which was a theater science project. So that was another genre that we delved in. Yeah.
Yes, and also the kind of imagery we used in that play was amazingly stunning and very organic, and it flowed very beautifully. Yeah, so many different experiences, and it's been a huge journey. Maybe Ramanjit can share two, three lines on how in merry-go-round, I don't know if you mentioned that how the whole audience comes and
Yeah,
sits on
yeah.
the
I've
stage.
shared all that. Yeah.
Yeah,
That
so
how
yes,
audience also becomes a part of the image, because
yeah.
the interaction is such. So they are the ones who are creating the imagery with the actor. Yes.
Yes, and of course, her work with the women actors group, because I've been there, I've conducted workshops with those women, and yes, they are definitely a huge inspiration in her work, in all of us work, and because the stories that come from each person and their journeys. So yeah, it's absolutely fantastic seeing her last couple of productions, the vastness and how these people, they've just blended and they're growing from every one production to the other, and it's almost stunning to see it now. Yeah, congratulations
That's
and
very
thank you
kind
for
of you,
having.
Taran, being a sister.
ये तो तारीफ हो गई ना. अब बताओ कि how easy or difficult it is to work with an elder sister. Does she treat you differently? Does she still bully you? Does she bring all that she does to you at home into the rehearsal space or not?
I think I will bring
She's
it to the.
definitely a bully, a
Yes,
huge
I am a
bully.
bully. I already confessed that I didn't give food to my actors. So we can
But
move
does
on
the
to
bullying
Chandra
extend
Dasanji.
to everybody else? Does she then treat everybody else like you, Taran, or does she treat you still differently?
uh, I think that her
Okay, that said it
actors,
all.
I
yeah,
think for that, Chandra Dasanji may have to set up another session.
yes. The actors can express better if they are here. They can share what they feel.
No, no, the
Over to
question
you,
was to
Chandra
you.
Dasanji, before this becomes something else.
Yeah. So it's so nice to have Ramanjit explaining the process, the images. It was not just touching the imagery on theater or just that part. It's also giving a parallel narrative of how the modern narratives in the theater is emerging in India, how it is relating itself with the influences from outside, like see the Bernard Alba project, where the three rooms and moving here. It's very Shakespearean and kind of things that's happening elsewhere also. So it's
I'll just mention here, Chandra Dasanji, I'm glad you talked about the movie. I directed my first poetry film, Silence, which is based on Sudeep Sen's work. But I also noticed that over there, also the way I was trying to move the camera, it was more imagery based. Whatever poetry was there, it was more imagery based. So you're very right that, the influences do get into each work that you are doing. Yes, please.
so we had a very good session to understand ourselves, the process of making a play, creating the language out of it, relating the content with the visual, the language with which we express in theater, the relationship between the actor and the audience, actor and the character, actor and the story. So it's touching everything, even if you're focusing on the imagery. So it's so nice to hear her and remember those scenes which I've seen. That cabbage tomato scene is the most striking image that's remaining in my head after many years of seeing the production again. And from Nagamandala, from the Greek play Phaedra, which he didn't mention at all.
Yeah,
That's
Phaedra. I didn't have the pictures. Yeah.
so it's so nice to have you hearing or telling us all these things. Wonderful, and it's very meaningful. So thank you everybody, and Ramanjit, you can say maybe if you want
Thank you
to.
so much. Big, big thanks. Thank you, Paul. You should also come here to give workshops. And thank you, everyone, all my actors, audience of Lokadharmi, and everyone who joined us from Delhi and other places. Big thanks, and thank you so much, Chandradasanji, for even thinking of me, inviting me to share my journey. I really feel deeply touched. And I hope I was able to make it meaningful.
We have a great number of audience in Facebook also. We have Kalerani, Paul, all those people seen here, but there are important people like Balwant Thakur and Jyotish in Facebook.
So happy to hear that.
Yeah, commenting that, it's a wonderful and etc. So they were there. Shivan was here. So many important people are watching from all over India. And
thank you.
Next Sunday, 11 a.m. Abhilash Pilla, one of the most prominent directors, and now the professor and dean of national drama, has done so many different productions in Delhi, all over India and outside India.
Amazing work, Abhilash.
It was on post-dramatic performance. So next Sunday, it will be Abhilash Pilla, and the next Sunday we hope to have KG Paulus back with Nati Shastra. Dr. KG Paulus come back with Nati Shastra the next series. So that's waiting. So thank you everybody for joining us.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, both of you.
Thank you, Kalai. Thank you. Thank you, Nabalveer
Nice,
Singh.
Kalarani, to see you here. This Gopal, okay.
Thank you, Shobha. Thank you, Gopal. You've been
Thank
sending
you.
me messages.
Yeah, okay, bye.
Sudhir Babu, Shobha Menon, and Shaji Joseph, they are the people who are behind and making the technicals work and things go.
Thank you. Thank you to the technical team.
All the people.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you. Thank you so much.